Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/JustNoMil. In today's episode, MIL wants to raise my child. Told our mother-in-law we got approved for a mortgage. MIL ruined my birthday plans. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. MIL wants to raise my child. My MIL isn't a just no per se. She's a nice woman and she's been pleasant to me, but we aren't close. Half due to a language barrier, and half due to the way she overhears on my husband's life. She's the type to want a phone call or text every day, which would be fine, but she judges my husband for his choices a lot and will go right to crying if something doesn't go her way or they call her out on it. But most of this doesn't happen often, and once we're firm with a boundary, she'll eventually get over it and do as we ask. We have an almost 2-month-old. When I met this woman, she asked when we were going to give them grandkids, and my husband told me that her dream was to be a grandmother. And I thought that was sweet because my father is very uninvolved. She cried when she met baby and kept thanking me for having her. Sweet, right? Except she's been asking my husband when I'm going back to work. And my husband and I had already decided I wasn't. I was a nanny for a decade and studied early childhood development in school, so it was crazy for us to hire someone. Plus, I made minimum wage at my last job, so my whole paycheck would go to childcare. Husband even told his mom that he doesn't want me to work unless I want to. But she keeps telling him that I need to go back to work. And then tells him that we can just leave the baby with her Sunday through Friday when my husband works. Not sure if she meant overnight because husband shut that down quick. She's done a few questionable things and said them before, but she's now firmly in the just maybe category. Edit, some cultural context, because I don't want to paint my MIL as evil. She's not, and when we set boundaries she eventually listens. We're Hispanic, different ethnicities, but they're immigrants. Multi-generational households are normal to her, and I don't think she wants to be mom to my baby. I think she wants to be grandma. But grandma in our cultures did raise the baby. My grandmother did the bulk of taking care of me for the first few years because my parents were working and in school. When we got engaged, his parents even offered to build onto their house for us to live with them, but when we declined, they gave us money towards an apartment instead. I once let my MIL convince me that I needed to go back to work. You want to know what happened while I was at work one night? My MIL picked a fight with my DH, screaming and swearing that I was withholding food and water from our 14-month-old, who was in the 99th percentile for both height and weight, punched DH in the face, ran to Elo's crib, picked him up, and ran to her bedroom, locking him in with her while her enabler husband held my DH down on the ground. This may sound like a worst-case scenario, but it certainly taught me not to let anyone else tell me what I should be doing. That isn't something that I am interested in at this time. My husband supports me 100%, and that this is not up for debate. I hope that we can set up a time to visit sometime soon. As long as you are respectful about our boundaries and us as parents, that is something that we are open to. Your baby, your rules. Culture is important, but it shouldn't be used to beat someone into submission. Since you are now a Som, there isn't any need for your MIL to watch your baby during the week at all, unless you have a doctor's appointment and she's available and you want her to. Maybe at some point, you and DH will want a romantic night out and she can watch your LO then, if you're comfortable with that. Other than that, just have DH remind her you are not going back to work and you are an expert at this already. It's up to DH to shut her down if she continues this. Yeah, that's exactly what he told her, LOL. He laughed and said, if you have the baby, what would OP do? She's never said any of this in front of me, so he's always the one dealing with her. Although it may be a norm to send babies to the old country and have grandma raise them, not uncommon in Asia, numerous studies have shown it's not the best setup for obvious reasons, especially for the handoff back to mom, which is actually traumatic for a toddler or school-aged child. I have a couple friends, one of whom was raised by grandma and has a horrible relationship with his mom even into adulthood, and another who did send her baby to China and did not really see her child until 3 years of age, and she only regretted her decision. Obviously, I can cherry pick anecdotes as can anyone else, but just because it is common doesn't make it the right choice for your family and for you. Exactly. We know that the early years are important for bonding. So why the heck would you send your baby off to bond with someone else, and then take them away from that home? I got pregnant at 19 and my parents wanted me to give them the baby to adopt so that I wouldn't embarrass them and they would raise him as my brother. Culturally, this is common in my community. You have to overcome your guilt of hurting familial members by holding your ground, maintaining boundaries, and remembering that you and your husband doing what you feel is best for your child. At the end of the day, your child is your main focus, not the feelings or demands of adults. I had a friend in college whose sister was actually her niece. They were like hardcore conservative Catholics, so probably didn't want anyone to know their older daughter had a baby out of wedlock. This is your baby and not her redo baby. If she wants a baby of her own to futz with, she can adopt or get a dog. Hubby needs to back you on this. I understand there is some cultural context here, but regardless, she is more invested in your career/childcare decisions than you need her to be. So she should back off when you ask her to if she respects you. You don't need or want her to play the role of the grandmother who raises the young child. My mom did something similar, and after she kept asking after even I said no, I said, I know you don't mean anything bar, but by refusing to acknowledge my no you're making me wondering why you really want to be alone with my child. She shut that down quickly after. It may have been tradition back then, but times have changed. Told our mother-in-law we got approved for a mortgage. She is really crazy. Calling us down to our lowest because we are able to buy a home and move out of an apartment with literal crackheads under us. We suffered for a year here so we could save money. The hardest year of our relationship, and she is questioning us wanting to move? Asking us if we really know the price of home ownership and have we really saved enough? We've saved an 8% down payment when we only need 5%. It's like she wants to see us suffer. Her own grandchild has to live here too. Like, what the hell? Why can you never please the crazies? I'm so glad we are looking at homes even further away from her, but already prepped for when we have baby number 2 and she starts the "he doesn't even know me" phone calls. You live 40 minutes away, get in your car if it's an issue. No way I'm traveling every single week to visit like I did with my son. I would stop discussing finances with her. You don't have to answer any of the questions she's asking. Congrats on the house. Thank you, this is seriously the biggest deal. We rented a home on the water the landlady told us she was going to sell to us. She turned around and sold it behind our backs and gave us a month notice to move out. We had to settle for whatever place we could find, and now we are finally buying a year later. It feels so good. She's jealous. My MIL struggled when we bought our home and had kids because it represented things she wasn't able to do. She remedies this by telling our family we can't afford anything and are living paycheck to paycheck. Hint, we aren't. She knows nothing about our finances. It's entirely manufactured to help her process her feelings. Ding ding ding. Insecurity that Op was able to do it but she couldn't. Sounds like it's time for an info diet. Stop sharing stuff with her. She is not supportive and you don't need the negativity. I think it is. I really struggle setting boundaries. She always texts me because she knows my fiancé won't deal with it. I'd turn that 40 minutes into 4 hours. By plane. My husband and I have been together 10 years. We're closing on our first home on the 8th. You better believe my MIL has been left in the dark throughout the entire process and doesn't know our new address. She also doesn't know that I'm pregnant with our 3rd child. I learned a long time ago to keep her out of the loop. It sounds like there's some jealousy involved there because you're leaving a bad living situation and going to a better situation with a home you own. One thing you can't stop is her intrusive financial questions, but I sure hope you and your so don't tell her a thing. It's also a good idea to move as far from her as you can. I think that's exactly it. They've asked if they can help us many times and we refuse to take their money. It took a year, but we saved plenty. Without them having to hold something over our heads. I think they were hoping we would ask for help with a house. I think this is them letting go of the idea that we may eventually need them. They're really crazy. And she has a weird obsession with her son. You only need 5%, we need 20% in my country most of the time, and it's hard to find anything under $500,000 that isn't a falling apart money sink. 20% used to be a requirement back in the day for most banks, but that's no longer the case. However, if you want to avoid PMI on the loan, mortgage insurance, you'll need to have paid off 20% of the home's value. Some banks allow you to send in a lump sum to apply towards the principal in order to meet the threshold without the need to refinance. Honey, stop giving her information to use as a weapon against you. Tell her nothing. In fact, when you move, I would use a USPS or UPS as my mailing address and not give her that information either. And buy the house using an LLC. MIL ruined my birthday plans. Please tell me if I'm upset over nothing here. My MIL is usually great. She has a habit of being overfamiliar with almost everyone, but then aloof and a bit standoffish. It's hard to really describe. We moved to my DH's hometown just under 2 years ago and had to be quite firm with boundaries and enforce them when they got ignored. I.e., driving past the house, turning up without prior notice, or being invited. Trying to take over holiday traditions and getting upset when DH kindly but firmly told her no. She does, however, love her grandkids and routinely asks/offers to babysit. It's not something I take up on often as I'm a Som, but when the kids ask to visit and she's happy to have them, it's all fine. Usually once or twice a month. She has babysat at our request 3 times in the 2 years, but 2 out of 3 we had already done bedtime and got her wine and snacks for the night. We always came home as soon as one of them woke, and this was fine. It was my birthday recently and my DH took 2 days off following the weekend to celebrate. He asked his mom to watch our youngest, 21 months, so he could take me to the spa and lunch. She offered to have him the previous morning as well if we wanted a few hours to ourselves. We said yes thanks and dropped him off with snacks and said we'd be there to collect in a few hours and we'll check in after our spa session. We have a leisure membership with access to a spa. He was dropped off at 9 a.m. and we called at 11:15 to see if he was okay and if we should collect before going food shopping. It's past their house. They said no, he's fine, and we arranged to their 12/12:30. We arrived at 12:10, 12:15 to him wrapped in a blanket asleep on MIL in front of the TV. Apparently he had been down for 10 minutes. I walked in and went, oh no, it wasn't, said angrily, and everything that followed seemed pleasant. She made a remark as DH and I tried to formulate a plan to keep him asleep while getting him home, as he had long enough he would wake and not settle again, but not long enough for him to have had a good nap and not have an effect on bedtime. MIL said I tried my best, and I replied in what I thought was a grateful tone that of course she did, and we're just trying to figure out how to keep him asleep and get him home. He of course woke as soon as she moved, which is usually the case when you move him, so we left and said thank you. We'll see you tomorrow. Kissed and hugged. Got in the car and drove home the long way. Hope he'd drift back off, which he did, but woke as soon as we stopped them car. Her comment about doing her best was playing on my mind, so I texted her. He's fallen back to sleep. Thank you for looking after him today, XXX. MIL, thanks, he was a delight, see you tomorrow, XXX. All good, right? Well, on my actual birthday, DH arrived to drop him off and MIL was acting hurt and upset. She said she'd call right away if he cries or moaned. DH said, well, we'll be in the spa for 2 hours, so I'm not sure that we have our phones. She went on to say she didn't want to get in trouble again and be told oh no when I arrive. And that she's not sure of the rules and boundaries. She said a bit more about being upset, but DH didn't want to relay it all as he knew it would upset me. He then said, Do you want me to just take him home? And she replied, that would probably be best as he's getting upset already and already calling out for her, which is normal at drop off, and she knows this. So we cancelled the spa and lunch and went for a walk and cooked lunch at home. It was nice, but not the day I had planned. I never take time to do things for myself, so it was a real treat to have a few hours with While I know I am not entitled to anyone's time, and I was, while unintentionally, the instigator, I can help but feeling upset at it all. She left it until he turned up at her door to send him away. Said to me via text she see us tomorrow, and I think made the day about her. Now I did follow up with a text to apologize, which was sincere and was brushed off with happy birthday Opie, have a lovely day. Am I overreacting by being upset about this and not wanting her to have the kids again anytime soon? Or should I get over myself and accept I hurt her feelings and let her come round when she's ready? My best advice is to do what I wish I had done so many years ago and arrange to have a babysitter instead of grandma watching when you have scheduled plans. Yeah, I think this is solution from here on out. This was definitely a punishment over nothing. You weren't criticizing her by saying oh no rational person could think you were. But she decided to punish you by wrecking your birthday plans over a perceived slight. She's shown you she is unreliable, so I would say her babysitting days are over. Since she can't handle a baby crying for a moment, then she doesn't really seem up to watching one. When people show you who they are, believe them. Take her at her word that she can't handle this and don't ever let her go back on it. Let her enjoy the bed she's made for herself. It is time to look for a regular babysitter. She, in my book, has now become unreliable. There was no criticism on your part and she took everything wrong. You can't trust she won't do this again. Look for a regular sitter who you can rely upon and you will avoid this issue completely. When she complains, this is what works best for us. She made a mountain out of a molehill. She does not get to burn you again. She could have called before he got there. Time to make other arrangements. Even if this was a misunderstanding, she should have discussed the situation. Instead, she chose the nuclear option. You apologized and you said thank you. Nothing more was warranted. It's ridiculous that anyone is thinking this is your fault. She's playing the victim for attention. If she was uncomfortable watching him after your comment, which you explained, thanked her repeatedly, assured her everything was fine, etc., she could have expressed that before you showed up at her door expecting that she was babysitting as she said she would. She waited until was there with the child to change her mind because she was being a drama queen and wanting you to call her begging for forgiveness for upsetting her. Don't. Get another babysitter, and when she complains about never getting to watch him, say you thought she didn't want to anymore after the way she behaved last time. Bailing on you at the last minute and making you cancel your plans on your birthday just for attention was shitty. Don't play into it and don't apologize when you didn't do anything wrong. What she did was some passive-aggressive shit. It was unkind and unwarranted. Her reply to your apology was a big passive-aggressive fuck you, knowing she has just ruined your plans. You made her mad, she wanted to play victim while getting you back. Could not agree more. You didn't hurt her feelings, she wanted to ruin your day. She will be the MIL who wants her grandkid at her leisure, not when you want to do something with Find a babysitter you can rely on, and MIL can babysit when it fits her plans. She played a passive-aggressive game to get a sting in and punish you, and the passive-aggressiveness indicates she knows she didn't really have anything to punish you for. Her ego was bruised by your inadvertent suggestion that she had done anything wrong and she couldn't get off it, and so she gaslight to make it seem that any problem was that you just have insane rules and boundaries. Getting that message across was more important to her than you enjoying your birthday. The commenter who said she's shown she can't be trusted to babysit around important events is right. Next time she offers when you have something important on, say no thanks, and should feel free to tell her this episode is why. Oof, you were just punished. I don't think you are overacting at all. I hate to say it, but it sounds like a power play. It sounds like she worked herself up after everything happened, and decided to show you that she can just as quickly revoke her support as give it, when she perceives that she's been slighted, implying that she is telling you watch yourself. Or the next time you have plans, she could do the same. Which is why, the next time OP has plans, she needs to opt for a more reliable babysitter, even if it's just to act as a backup in case MIL flakes again. Time to start asking the neighbors for recommendations. That was absolutely her punishing you. What a petty, immature way to respond to you. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.